Good to see you. Thank
Craig.
you for coming. So before we get into the discussion here, I have to talk about Mr. Nutting. So my vivid memory of him is walking into Wednesday night at our church where Awana takes place. And there's a bunch of kids running around, and there's one big kid riding around on roller skates. All right, and that's Mr. Nutting.
That'd be me.
Yes, so thank you for pouring your life into kids and having the energy to do that. So let's dig for a couple seconds into how you've served the community in the past. All right, so because I know you've been in policymaker side of things in our community. So give us a little bit of history on that.
Well, thank you. First of all, thanks for sitting on the bench here, and this happens to be one of the coldest benches in Wisconsin, I understand, right now. I've never been a bench warmer.
Okay.
But, my opportunities to serve in our community started in 2005 when a position became available on City Council due to a council member moving, and so it was. So I applied and was given the opportunity to serve that unexpired term. So, but I did end up serving in Wausau City Council for almost 12 years.
Okay.
And I finished that in the year 2020. Just when.
Good. So since you mentioned that, 2005, 2020, okay? So was council talking about homelessness issues?
Quite a bit.
In 2020, yes, but in 2005?
Not in 2005 that I recall, but we were becoming aware of the homeless situations in Wausau area because of, when the new parking structure was finished, and unfortunately, the stairwells of the parking ramps are heated, and so they were attracting fellas to spend the cold nights in the stairwells. And the trouble was that it was alarming to individuals who had to go up and down the stairwell in order to go to work.
Yes.
And so that was troublesome, and we had to do something about that.
So that was probably around 2013.
Yes.
From what I've heard from other people in the city, which is interesting, all right, because that also matches when the federal government did a shift in how they approached housing. So, which is interesting at that point. So that became more apparent to. Okay. So can you maybe talk through that a little bit, and just what council was thinking? What did they attempt to do?
Well, there was a lot of discussion and a lot of how do we do this? How do we find a place? And one building over on Third Avenue in Garfield was opened up. It became an overnight shelter, and that was run by Catholic Charities, and that was very instrumental. They had the rooms was outfitted and remodeled, bathrooms were put in properly, and that was a place where they could drop in at a certain time. And I can't recall if meals were provided or not. I have to assume that that was in its early infancy of that taking place. And there was always an action. What more can we do? There, and also to encourage the fellas to arrive there. That was, how do we get them there? That was something that was ongoing also. And during that time, my wife and I owned an apartment building not too far from that, just 2 blocks away. And we it was six apartments in there, and they were all small apartments. We worked with an organization. It was on 3rd Avenue. There was I'm trying to remember what the name of the place was, but it was over where the Christian bookstore used to be. It was a drop-in center, a place where fellas and gals could land and spend the day, and they were also helping some of these fellas find places to stay, for apartments. And so we offered and had a number of individuals who didn't have places to stay and needed help to, like for instance, the first month's rent was being helped out for some of these. And then the Salvation Army also needed places for fellows to stay. And so we took in one gentleman who came from the Salvation Army, homeless, and provided an apartment for him. And he lived there for many years until he passed away. So that we've always had a heart for providing for fellas that didn't have a place. And then after 2020, I left the council and have been, now I've retired also, but I also served with Ty in the overnight help, and look forward to whatever we can do this coming winter, now that I've retired.
Excellent. So you have a mic on the bench. So what would you want to talk about or say to the group about homelessness, addiction, or mental illness from your observation, or a question, or something you just want to highlight?
Well, we've often wondered, why is there so much homeless activity in the metro areas? Well, it's because this is where the services are. And there's also talk that other communities bring their homeless individuals to the Wausau metro area and say, because they don't have the services, and they drop them off here and say, you've got services here, and that's a concern also.
Yes. So yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier with somebody else, but it's probably a different audience watching now, so we probably should repeat it. Our experience at the mission is that people don't come to Wausau for Bridge Street Mission. They usually come to Wausau for other relationships, family or boyfriend, girlfriend, or employment or something like that. We actually have one case of a young lady. Her story was that she was left Colorado, got picked up by a man who drove her across the country. He was and really was abused by this guy. And when he was done with her, he dropped her off in Wausau, and that's how she ended up on our streets. And we were able to serve her through our outreach center. So that's been mostly our experience. However, there are documented cases where other communities have dropped people off, and I understand why would they do that. You're saying, how can I help this person? And you look around your smaller community, we don't have the resources. Well, Wausau has some resources, so let's get the people there. So that does happen. Now, what's interesting is on the city county joint homelessness task force, which I sat, that was discussed actually quite a bit. And one of the things that really came out of that is some discussions with people on the county, where they really acknowledge that, this is not just a Wausau issue, this is a county issue. And to the county's credit, they have stepped up as a county, and so they're actually helping to fund the Wausau Marathon County Shelter, and they matched the commitment that the city made. So the county has stepped up and recognized it. So really the next piece to that would be maybe some of the other municipalities acknowledging that, you know what, this is not just a
It's not just a Wausau issue.
It's a Rothschild, it's a West End, you know, and we may not have the infrastructure to set up services in our community, but we can be part of funding and supporting those services that service our people, you know, in Wausau. So
That's exactly right.
yeah.
I served on Marathon County Board of Supervisors from 2006 until 2020 also.
Yes.
And it was, for a time, it was unfortunate that the surrounding supervisory districts were saying, well, this isn't our problem.
Yes. Yeah.
This
So-
is a Wausau problem.
Yeah,
Well, this is the only reason that it's a Wausau problem, quote unquote, is because we have the services here. We have the infrastructure. We have the ability. You know, we got the bus.
Right,
We've
right.
got the, you know, if that is being used, we've got the services here. But
Yeah.
those
So
services,
that is a natural thing that we need to understand.
it's the county seat.
Yeah, you know, as if we are, you know, people, we're a regional hub for a lot of things. People come here for entertainment. At the Grand, which I see you at the Grand a lot. You know, not that I go a lot, but when I go there, you're always there. So
I'm a volunteer
thank
there.
you for serving the community in that way as well. So we want people to come for entertainment. People come for shopping, you know, and entertainment and things like that. And that's just natural. That's going to happen. And, you know, so someone sitting in one of these small towns looking around, what are my options this winter? They're going to gravitate to the city. That's just natural. You know, so that's not going to go away. You know, and that's part of being the kind of the regional hub. Yeah, because people in Antigo don't watch Antigo TV, they watch Wausau TV.
right.
You know, so that's just natural. But at the same time, and I know this is a desire of Wausau, and rightly so, is that, you know, the other communities don't just drop off their problems on our doorstep. You know, so there just needs to be, just like the city of Wausau and Marathon County got together, had good conversation, and shared responsibility. That'd be great if that could happen with the other communities, you know, as well.
One of the most important things that is talked about a lot here is there affordable housing for individuals that either that is available to them to prevent them from being homeless, or that is it available when they are leaving a homeless situation, and such as and when fellas and gals are
Yes.
graduating
Yes.
from the Bridge Street mission.
Yes.
And I see it on social media a lot where people are saying there isn't enough affordable housing, or that the price of the housing is not affordable, even
Yeah.
though it's deemed affordable.
Yes. Yeah. So that is a real challenge, and that impacts both the people who are housed and what is called ALICE. That's United Way does a great job of tracking this. ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained Employed. So these are working people living in their own homes, but are maybe one emergency away, you know, 1 week off of work away from really being in a housing crisis.
Yes.
And so the lack of affordable housing is impacting those people, but it's also impacting people trying to leave the homeless ranks and to get back into housing, you know. And so I will share this. This is kind of something that came out of our move, really not intentionally, but happened anyway. So before we moved to our current campus, our Men's Recovery Center was in the old Newman Catholic convent.
The convent.
which
Bridge
then
Street.
became low-income housing, known as the Annabelle Apartments. And then our founders actually purchased that building full of people, which was very interesting, because all of a sudden you had people living in your building that didn't want to be in your program. They were just looking for a cheap place to live. And so it took a while until the current residents moved out and people came in for programming. But then the building was helpful and useful to us, but it wasn't 100% conducive for our programming. They were single 8x10 rooms in a long, narrow hallway, and it was very easy for the people to isolate, which
yeah.
is not something you want. And so the facility we're in now is a little more like a college dorm, where things are more centralized and you have roommates, and all of a sudden now you're in community, which is hard for somebody in addiction, because often it's relationships that hurt them, but the reality is these relationships is what they need, to heal and to get better. But there's a fear,
Yes.
because of that. So trying to create that community. So we're in a better situation, we feel. But what was really neat is that, we moved into our new facility, and when it's fully renovated, and we have both men and women there in the two wings, we'll be able pretty much house 60 in transitional housing, recovery. But the owners who bought our building renovated it, and they've turned it back into lower income housing. But they did something a little extra based on their experience in other cities, and at our urging as well, is that they, rather than just putting it on the market and renting to anyone, they purposely have engaged with some of the agencies that were here, with Tracy from the police department, with the social workers over at Northern Valley. And so that the people are going in there are people who have some supporting services outside of their employment. And so they have a better chance of making it. And so that was an extra blessing that we couldn't control or couldn't plan. And so us leaving that building actually created more affordable housing in the city, while we were able to improve our program. But there needs to be even more, and that's a challenge.
Yeah, one of the things we did with our apartment building is we worked with the authorities to assure that each of the apartments were qualified for Section 8 benefits, so that individuals that were on that income stream, Section 8, the apartment qualified for that, and that it had to be at a certain income level low with, and made sure that it passed the guidelines that were there, so that the apartment was correctly outfitted. And there is a need for apartments and apartment owners to accept Section 8 qualified individuals. There's not enough of those kind of apartments available locally, and there's a huge waiting list for individuals that are on that income-based program.
So I am encouraged that there is some movement. There's right at the corner of First and Stewart, there's a new housing unit there. I know
It's, Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority is working with that for
I know the
income-based
Foundry
housing.
of Third is kind of mixed housing, so it'll be available.
That'll be market rate housing there.
Well, but some lower. It's kind of mixed. That's my understanding. There'll be market rate, but then there'll also be some that are more affordable. So it's kind of mixed. And then I believe there's another one happening on Thomas
and Grand Avenue is under construction.
So so there has been some movement, which is
There's
good.
apartments being built, but there would be those that are out there who will say it's not affordable. But
Yes.
where can we? It can only you can only go so low. You have to maintain the building.
Yes.
You have to pay the utilities, the taxes,
Yes.
etc.
Yes. Yeah.
And
But-
there's costs involved.
But more supply will help.
It is true.
You know, one of the things we do every couple of years, we do something that's called the Urban Street Project, which is a fundraiser. And we actually have contractors who donate or discount time and materials and use their expertise to build a market rate house. And then that's sold, and the extra savings in the building then becomes kind of a funding stream for Bridge Street Mission. But what we're excited about that is when we build that, somebody moves to that house, which opens up another house. You know, maybe, you know, so that even market value homes being built helps low income housing, because somebody's moving from one house that may be a smaller one, taking that step up to another house as their family grows or their situation, which then fills. So the more housing there is built at any level, that's going to help, you know, with the housing stock and the affordability of the housing stock.
One of the things we did on City Council also was there was a lot of substandard housing, older stock housing, and it's important that this rental housing be upgraded to certain standards. And so inspectors assured that this ongoing inspection was taking place of rental housing, and to assure that there's an acronym, basic. Yeah, when you want to say the right acronym, it doesn't come to my mind, but BACA, I think it was called, basic accommodation. Well, for what it's worth, it has to do with assuring that a facility, a place, is meeting certain standards. And tenants were able to call in and report if a place was substandard or wasn't being repaired, and that was something to help improve the older housing stock in Wausau.
Okay, excellent.
But for the fact that individuals are losing jobs or having issues with what is causing their downward spiral to become homeless, and we've certainly talked a lot about that today, and from your guests and through. We are really blessed to have what's going on here in this community through Bridge Street Mission, and I just want to say that we support you and this ministry and those who are behind the scenes, your board, and we just want to thank you for bringing your talents to the community here, and I know my wife and I support it, and among certainly perhaps thousands of others within the community here.
Well, thank you. Yes, thank you. That's a growing number, and I really want to commend, as we've tried to do on the bench too. Yes, Bridge Street Mission is involved, but if you followed us through the evening, you see all these other agencies that are working hard at, and having agencies and individuals who are working hard at and having success moving people who are unhoused into permanent housing. And so that's what we're going to continue to strive to do.
Quote unquote, it takes a village, as it's been used in many times.
And so we have to be intentional about it, you know, and support and do programs that actually have the end goal of moving people to a point where they can be effective in society again. So good. Well, I appreciate you coming to the table. kind of spontaneously. So I'll look out here. And Raina, do we have any online questions that we need to address? If we don't, we'll probably go to a... Okay, excellent. Okay. And
Thanks for serving.
oh yes, thank you so much for joining us.